While driving through the mountains of Utah, I came across a strange sight. A brand new Jeep Wrangler, covered in dust yet still gleaming, stood completely still, held in place by nothing more than a thin rope tied to a rotting wooden fence. No one was guarding it, no wheel locks, and it was clear the thing could drive off at any moment. I stepped out of my car, curiosity pulling me closer. Why was such a powerful machine being held back so easily? Not far from there stood an old repair shop, with a rusted sign creaking in the breeze and a faint sound of country music playing from a dusty radio. An elderly man was wiping his hands with an oil-stained rag, calm and steady, like the desert itself. I pointed toward the Jeep and asked, "Whose Jeep is that? Looks like it's in great shape. Why's it tied up with just that thin rope?" He gave a soft chuckle, eyes still fixed on the unlit cigarette in his hand. "Oh, that's Jack's, a young guy who lives a few miles out. Bought it a few years back, dreaming of exploring every inch of these mountains. But on his first trip out, the Jeep got stuck in a shallow creek after a storm. Jack panicked. Took almost a whole day to get him out. Since then, he believed the Jeep wasn't strong enough, and worse, that he wasn't either. A couple weeks later, he parked it there. Hasn't driven it since." I looked back at the Jeep, high clearance, rugged tires still fresh, clearly built to conquer tough terrain. That machine was made to overcome challenges, and yet it was being held back by nothing more than a thin rope. Not because it couldn't move, because its owner believed it couldn't. The story sounded strange, and yet somehow deeply familiar. Because how many times in life have we been like Jack? We start something, a new job, a personal project, a relationship, maybe just an idea, with all the excitement and belief in the world. But then one failure, one heartbreak, one misstep shakes our confidence. And from that point on, we stop. We don't try again. We don't move forward. We tie ourselves down with a rope, the limiting belief we've come to accept as truth. That Jeep is a reflection of that. It's not locked. It's not broken. It just thinks it can't move anymore. I stood there in silence for a while, staring at the Jeep as if I were looking at a version of myself from a few years back. Back then, I had my own invisible rope. After a failed startup project, I fell into a state of disillusionment and doubt. Even though I had achieved small wins before, that single failure was enough to convince me I wasn't cut out to be an entrepreneur. Worse, I began turning down every business opportunity, big or small. I told friends I was taking time to reflect, but the truth was, I had tied myself down with fear and the memory of that one fall, just like Jack had tied down his Jeep. I turned to the old mechanic and asked, "So, does Jack ever come back here?" He shook his head slowly. "He does, now and then. Just stands by the fence and looks. I think he still loves that Jeep. He just doesn't trust himself to drive it anymore." That answer hit me hard. Maybe the scariest part of failure isn't the fall itself, but living with the fear afterward, too afraid to take another step forward. Jack didn't hate his Jeep. He didn't give up on his dream of exploring. He just stopped believing he had what it took. And that belief, that one belief, is what's kept him stuck. In Jack's mind, the Jeep stopped being a vehicle. It became a symbol of that failure. And instead of rewriting that story, he chose to avoid it. The irony? The Jeep isn't broken. It could still run perfectly. All it needs is someone to get in, turn the key, and hit the gas. Just like us. We're not broken, we just need to start the engine again. It's not our true ability holding us back. It's the limiting belief we've let settle in. You might have a skill, a passion, an idea burning inside you, but if your mind keeps whispering, "I tried once and failed," then it's no different than tying yourself up with a thin rope. I left that repair shop that day with one clear thought. Not every time you get stuck means the journey's over. Sometimes, it's just a lesson. And you can come back, stronger engine, steadier hands, and a whole lot more wisdom. That Jeep is still there. What about you? Are you letting a thin rope, a single moment of failure, hold you back? As I drove away from that dusty repair shop, I couldn't stop thinking about Jack and about how many of us are living just like he is. You might not have a Jeep sitting still in your yard, but maybe you have a business idea you've never acted on, a creative project you haven't dared to start, or a career move you've been putting off for far too long. And all because, once or twice before, you failed, stumbled, or got rejected. We tell ourselves we're waiting for the right time. But in truth, we're being held back by a memory, a story we've told ourselves too many times. I'm not good at that. I've tried and failed. I'm not smart enough, creative enough, brave enough. But if you take a closer look, you'll see, just like that Jeep, your potential is still intact. Failure didn't take it from you. It only took the belief you had in yourself. You're not broken. You just think you are. This is especially true for those between 25 and 45, that strange in between where we're no longer new enough to take wild risks, but not yet settled enough to stop trying. It's that age where the pressure to be stable collides with the deep desire to live authentically. And every failure, even a small one, adds a whisper of self-doubt that grows louder with time. But here's the truth. A limiting belief is not a fact. It's just a chapter in your story, not the ending. Now imagine this. What if Jack came back to that old shop, opened the Jeep's door, turned the key, and felt the engine roar to life? What would happen? Maybe this time, he'd drive farther. Stronger. More sure of himself. Not because the Jeep had changed, but because his belief had. You can do the same. The belief you choose today can pull you out of the place you got stuck yesterday. And sometimes, all it takes is one moment of courage to fire up the engine again and realize you were always capable. You just forgot for a while. So the real question isn't, have you ever failed? It's, are you still letting that failure hold you back, like a thin rope you could have broken free from all along? If there's one thing that stayed with me from Jack's story in that Jeep, it wasn't just the image of a powerful machine held back by a thin rope. It was the sense of regret. Not regret for the vehicle, but for the life Jack didn't live. And it made me ask myself, am I living like that? What about you? Are you holding back because of a belief that you can't? Here's the truth. No one moves through life without getting stuck. We all hit the mud sometimes. We all spin our wheels. But the difference is, some people choose to get back behind the wheel and start the engine again, while others spend a lifetime staring from a distance, replaying the day they got stuck. So if you're at a standstill, if you once began something but walked away, if you've carried a dream in your heart but let it sleep after one heartbreak, this is your moment to fire it up again. Because the beautiful thing is, you don't need everything to be perfect to restart. You just need one choice. The choice to believe in yourself again. The choice to put the past down and put your hands back on the wheel. Take a moment to look at yourself. Chances are, you're more skilled than you think, stronger than you remember, closer to your goal than you realize. The only thing holding you back may be a worn-out belief, a thin rope made of fear, one failure, or someone's voice you gave too much weight to. But you have the power to cut that rope today. No one's forcing you to stay stuck. No one's saying you have to stop just because you once fell. And most importantly, no one else can restart your journey but you. So write it down. What dream did you once have, but leave behind? What failure has kept replaying in your mind? Then ask yourself, if I weren't afraid, what would I do next? And go do that. Even just one small step. Because you're not broken. You're not stuck. You're just paused. And you can move again if you choose to. That Jeep is still there, waiting for someone to turn the key. What about you? Are you ready? As I got back in my car and continued winding through Utah's Red Mountains, one question echoed in my mind. What about me? Am I ready? But that question wasn't just for me. It's for you, too. Because no matter who you are, what you do, or where you are on your journey, the truth remains. We're not stuck because of reality. We're stuck because of our perception. It's not what's around us that holds us back. It's what's within us. I want you to try something. Think back to the moment you gave up on something. Maybe it was a failed startup, a rejection, a relationship that didn't last, an idea that once lit you up, only to get buried under doubt. Now imagine going back to that moment. Not to blame yourself, but to face it with courage and say, thank you for the lesson, but I won't let you define me anymore. That's the moment you restart the engine. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to be willing. Willing to break free from the thin rope that's holding you back. That rope might be someone's judgment, your family's expectations, a childhood memory, or the moment you said, "I can't," and started believing it. But today, you can choose differently. You can choose to live bigger than your fear. To start again with everything you've learned from the last time. To believe in your ability, not flawless, but real. That Jeep is still there, powerful as ever, just waiting for someone to climb in and turn the key. The real question is, do you still want to drive the Jeep of your own life? Don't just pass through your own story like a stranger. Don't let one time you got stuck make you give up on the entire road ahead. You weren't born to stand still. You were born to explore, to experience, to go far. Don't let your life become a dust-covered vehicle, tied to an old fence, slowly forgotten. Start the engine. Set yourself free. And drive toward the life you were meant to live.